Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. What incident at your job made you so mad that you left it without any notice? Part 6. I was a housekeeper at a popular hotel. I was also the only white person in the housekeeping. I didn't need to talk to anyone else in order to get my work done, so I didn't. I don't come to work to make friends, and this may or may not have something to do with the coworkers' decision to make it their mission to try to get me fired. From day 3, they started making up rumors about me, lying to the boss, and trying to start conflict with me when I would come around. They even stole my S all the time. And yes, I did tell the big bosses every time they were harassing me or stealing my things, but they never did anything more than talk to them. One of the supervisors also joined this mission. She was harassing me in a whole new way because she's the supervisor and gets to control what rooms I get, etc. She would purposefully give other people my assigned floor on the weekend. She was the only boss on the weekend. The weekend is also when we get the most tips. Let other people use my cart and make me go search for something else to use, even though we all have our own carts and are fully expected to drag our carts down to another floor if needed. It was every day they were making up S to complain to my boss about. Then about 8 months in, I got news that I have to go to a meeting with all the big bosses because the supervisor's been lying to them, saying I was clocking out at 7 p.m. on the days I showed up late, which is a complete lie. For about a week, I showed up an hour or two late to work and I got everything done and clocked out earlier than the time on my board. So I was just done with the BS because the big bosses believed the lying A supervisor and didn't even bother to check the time clock. We clock in digitally in the company website. I had proof that I wasn't staying that late, but there was just no point in trying to continue working here. The job is not worth keeping. The bosses don't care about anything. No one ever gets in trouble but me, and I'm the only person in the D building who literally doesn't do S to anyone. I didn't speak to them, I completely avoided them, and I will never understand why they did that. I was the best housekeeper there, so you'd think the bosses would have tried a little harder to keep me there, but they chose quantity over quality. I hate companies that don't act on workplace harassment and prejudice. They never fire the bad employees, no matter how much of a risk they are to keep around. How are you going to let someone be a housekeeper when they got caught stealing? A part of being a housekeeper is going into people's rooms that's full of their stuff and cleaning. If she stole from me multiple times, I wouldn't be surprised if they're stealing from guests too. So that day, the day I found out about the meeting, I finished working, clocked out for the day, and never came back. Never contacted any of them again. Have to share my story. Started working with a smallish software company focusing on health market. Had decent product. As per the agreement made at the time of hiring, I would work on client implementation projects. Many clients in similar establishments were involved, but first I would provide some support to better understand the product and the difficulties clients faced, making me more capable of integrating. Was supposed to last for 3 to 4 months, after which I would become an integrator on the implementation team. I didn't mind the support part because it was a great learning opportunity, and I felt like I was getting overpaid for it. My managers tell me right away not to provide any more support than what is specified in the contract. The support team's freebies to keep customers satisfied were being clamped down on by the company. I was to refer the client to the manager for discussion if they required anything beyond what was agreed upon. I did as instructed because it made sense to me and wasn't a huge deal. As the end of the 4th month approaches, I have not yet been moved to begin working with the implementation team. Since they felt I was ready to go with them and had client implementations ready, they were initially requesting when I would be transitioned. Not a word from my supervisor, only crickets. I looked up my support metrics on a whim and saw how my calls were in, finished, and outstanding. 400 tickets were assigned in 4 months, many of which were 5-minute calls. 390 or so of these were completed, and 10 were advanced to the second level, some of which I worked on during my spare time. I felt something had changed, so I went to see my manager about the transition after we had an agreement. That did not proceed as planned. He yelled at me, saying that his clients had complained about certain interactions. When I inquired about the type of complaints, he said that I wasn't giving them the free services they requested, which he had earlier instructed me to forward to him. Claimed that he was hesitant to move me because of the complaints, believing that I needed more time to season on support. When I asked how many complaints he had received, he replied 2. Thus, 400 calls and 2 grievances. I yelled 2 out of 400 is definitely worth getting torn into, which is obviously untrue. I asked him how much the other members of the support team were averaging during that same time frame. Approximately half to 3/4 of my numbers, and 10 times as many complaints were made, but they escaped punishment. He ignored my courteous point that it was not about them, only about you, when I brought it up. Yes, so I inquired about the start date of my transition, since it was evident that I was prepared and that was our agreement at the time of hiring. He abruptly altered his tone, acting as though he was not upset with me, talk about whiplash on mood swings, and he tried to persuade me to continue supporting him. I sighed when I realized that this person was lying and that you would never be able to trust them with regard to their promises. Though I was already mentally looking for a new job, I kindly agreed to continue in the role. 3 days later, still on probation and exempt from having to give more than a week's notice to quit, I walked into his office with a job offer in hand, God I love IT, and handed him my resignation. He was astounded. Since I saw things his way, I assumed everything was well. That made it obvious that he was untrustworthy and an ineffective manager, and I laughed heartily. He lost it, began cursing at me and yelling for me to leave. This was seen by the entire office, small company. The genuinely kind owner/president came out to investigate what was going on. Manager was told to return to his office, dragged me into his office to investigate. I clearly stated to the manager what he really wanted from me, support, as I've shown myself to be extremely skilled at it, and a way to back out of his hiring commitment. I've made it plain that I won't work for someone like that, so it's best if we part ways. I wish the owner luck with the manager. He was aware of the problems, but didn't realize how serious they were or chose not to address them, gathered my belongings, and headed home to enjoy the unscheduled time off. Homeowners, share your story of encountering a moronic neighbor or HOA, Part 6. My uncle installed solar panels on the roof of his home and left them there for approximately a year before the Homeowners Association made the decision that he needed to remove them. There's no provision in their terms of service that addresses solar panels or anything else. However, they asserted that the house had to be uniform and solar panels distract from that requirement. Their contention was that he could have the panels installed on the roof that faced north away from the road, but not on the roof that faced south towards the road, despite the fact that a roof that faces south is the most suitable installation location for the panels. In essence, they reached a point where they were sick of seeing solar panels and made the decision that he needed to either completely remove them or relocate them so they were no longer visible. Since the HOA really did not have any grounds to tell him to remove or move them in the first place, this turned into a legal battle that lasted for an entire year between my uncle and the HOA over an arbitrary distinction between one side of the roof and the other. In addition, the same uncle was involved in a legal dispute with the HOA that lasted for a period of 6 months because of a speeding ticket he received in the neighborhood. In the past, they would hire a police officer to monitor the speeds of vehicles near their neighborhood pool and to pull over anyone who exceeded 30 miles per hour. According to the Department of Resources, or whatever government agency handles zoning and speed limits in public roads, the road was actually a 30-mile-per-hour road, despite the fact that the sign on the road indicated that it was a 20-mile-per-hour zone. In order to find tickets for speeding that were between 20 and 30 miles per hour, which were not considered to be speeding according to the law, he personally went through all of the tickets that had been issued in the neighborhood over the past 10 years. On the whole, the HOA was informed that they were not permitted to hire a police officer to set up a speed trap on a road where they had previously placed a false speed limit sign, although there is a part of me that wants to say that my uncle was being petty about each of the incidents. I do not believe that these heads of HOAs actually believe that they have some degree of real power. The ego trip that these delusional people are going through is incredible, and it completely dissuades me from going to neighborhoods. It's not entirely clear to me how the Homeowners Association operates in this regard. However, it appears that the builder is in charge of the community while it's still in the design phase. Our neighborhood is still in the process of being built. The constructor permitted the use of white vinyl fences. The construction company went out of business, and a new construction company took over. If you already had a white vinyl fence, you were grandfathered in, even though they prohibited the installation of new fences. As a result, people went insane. They were demonstrating in the street, blowing up the HOA's email and phone, and going door to door in an effort to garner support for reinstituting the previous rule. After receiving this response, the HOA held a vote to allow the white vinyl fences, but it was unsuccessful once more. After that, 1 month later, they constructed a model house that had a fence made of white vinyl. I was the owner of a townhome in an HOA from 2016 until 2023. I had the unit on the upper floor, and I had a neighbor who was a living H on the lower floor. Each of the units featured a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom layout and an attached garage. I was located upstairs, so my master bedroom was situated above the garage of my downstairs neighbor, and my second bedroom was situated above my own garage. In the year 2021, I had the intention of tearing out the worn carpet in the bedrooms and replacing it with wood floors. This would be done in order to match the wood floors that were already present in the kitchen and living room when I purchased the property brand new. During my review of the CCRs, I came across a statement that stated any floor renovations over livable areas must seek out HOA approval. I thought to myself, that's great, considering that the bedrooms are located above garages, which aren't living areas. I don't need approval. All of the floors were replaced. The person who lived downstairs from me was a chronic complainer. In every situation, he would lodge a complaint with the HOA. As an illustration, I was given 3 complaints in a span of 2 months for operating my dishwasher during the night. Evidently, he was able to hear the water flowing through the pipes, and he believed that I was not permitted to do so. It was my garage door that woke him up, he said, and he was upset that I came home at 2 in the morning. Stupid things such as that ones. I was called before the board to perform that entire song and dance after I had received a dozen complaints about the situation. I concealed the fact that I had changed the flooring by accident, which resulted in all of them being wrapped up. I had my attorney respond to them by stating that my bedrooms are located over unlivable spaces and, as a result, do not satisfy the requirements for approval in the CCRs. I even sent them the floor plan. There was no longer any issue. At the beginning of 2023, I made the decision to sell the property. Upon receipt of the HOA report, the buyer was informed that there was no mention of a flooring issue. The location was sold, everything went swimmingly until about a half a year later. Following the receipt of certified mail from the attorney for the new owner, I was informed that I had neglected to mention my unauthorized flooring. Furthermore, because the neighbor downstairs was always complaining about the noise, I was being asked to pay for new flooring in order to comply with the HOA rules, or else I would be subject to legal action. After receiving a response from my attorney, both parties, myself and the new homeowner, had agreed to meet to discuss this matter. We both had our legal representatives present. The fact that any pre-existing HOA issues would have been documented in the buyer reports that was provided by the HOA was something that my attorney discussed. There was no documentation of the floors. It was about 5 weeks ago when I last heard about it. The homeowner's attorney concurred, the homeowner was upset but agreed, and that was the last time I heard about it. While I was out running errands, I happened to run into the homeowner. Regarding the flooring, I inquired about it from him. He stated his attorney turned on the HOA, who lost the court battle and was forced to pay for new flooring. With the help of the HOA, he was able to complete approximately $10,000 worth of work. The best part is that when the downstairs neighbor heard this, he immediately contacted his attorney. He claimed that the HOA's negligence caused him emotional distress because they allowed a renovation to take place, which affected his ability to work from home and his ability to sleep. The HOA lost that court battle as well, and they were required to pay him almost $80,000 in damages. It would appear that the HOA is currently in debt and is being compelled to increase dues by almost 200% in order to fulfill the requirement that the county imposes on them. When homeowners associations are on, it's hard not to enjoy it. Thank you for listening to these stories. If you want to see new videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the like button.